Grade 9 Biology Lesson Tissue Module 3 Objectives. In this module, you will learn about complex permanent tissues, structure and functions, protective tissue, structure and functions. Complex permanent tissues. These are the tissues made of different types of cells. All the cells combine to form a common function. They constitute vascular bundles. Complex permanent tissues are of two types. They are xylem and phloem. Xylem. These are dead and thick-walled cells. It is a water-conducting tissue. That means helps in transportation of water, which also provides mechanical strength to the plant. Xylem is made up of four types of elements. They are xylem tracheids, xylem vessels, xylem fibers and xylem parenchyma. This is an image showing different kinds of cells in xylem tissue. Let us learn more about different types of cells in xylem tissue. At first, tracheids. The cells are elongated with sharp ends. Helps in the transportation of water and minerals vertically. Their main function is conduction of water. Second one, vessels. The cells are elongated and aligned end to end. Helps in the transportation of water and minerals vertically. So their main function is conduction of water. Xylem parenchyma. Living cells with thin walls. Helps in storage of food and also helps in the conduction of water in sideways. Xylem fibers. They are supportive in function. These cells are both elongated and pointed at the end. Second type of complex permanent tissue, phloem. Phloem is a food conducting tissue. That means helps in transportation of food. The materials, that is food, can move in both the directions, that is towards the root and shoot. Phloem transports fruit from leaves to other parts of the plant. All phloem cells are living except phloem fibers. Phloem is divided into four components. They are seed tubes or seed elements, companion cells, phloem fibers and phloem parenchyma. This is an image showing different types of cells in phloem tissue. Now, let us have a discussion about different types of cells in phloem tissue. First, sieve tubes. These are the tubular cells having perforated walls. Second, companion cells. They are living parenchymatous cells. Cell wall is thin. Then phloem fibers. They are the dead cells made of sclerenchymatous tissue. Examples, jute, flax, hemp. And phloem parenchyma. They are living parenchymatous tissue, helps in storage of food. State the differences between transport of materials in xylem and phloem. At first, transport of materials in xylem. Xylem tissues help in the transport of water and minerals. Water is transported upwards from roots to aerial parts of the plants. That means xylem shows unidirectional transport. Third one, transporting xylem requires physical forces such as transpiration pull. Second, transport of materials in phloem. Phloem tissues help in the transport of food. Food is transported in both upward and downward directions. That is, phloem shows bidirectional transport. Transport of food in phloem requires energy in the form of ATP. Protective tissue. Protective tissues are usually present in the outermost layer of the plant body, such as leaves, stem, roots, and offer protection to the plant body. They prevent desiccation, mechanical injury, and infection in plants. There are two types of protective tissues in plants. They are epidermis and cork. Epidermis. It is usually present in the outermost layer of the plant body, such as leaves, flowers, stem, and roots. Structure. It is one cell thick and covered with cuticle. Cuticle is a waterproof layer of waxy substance called cutin. It forms a continuous layer without intercellular spaces. Most epidermal cells are relatively flat. Functions of epidermis. The main function of epidermis is to protect the plant from desiccation and infection. Cuticle of epidermis helps to reduce water loss by evaporation from the plant surface. This aids in protection against loss of water, mechanical injury, and invasion by parasitic fungi. In some plants living in very dry habitats, the epidermis may be thicker for protection against water loss. Stomata. Epidermis of a leaf is not continuous at some places due to the presence of small pores called stomata. Each stoma is bounded by a pair of specialized epidermis cells or two kidney-shaped cells called God cells. Functions of stomata: gaseous exchange and transpiration. Second type of protective tissue in plant is cork. As plants grow older, the outer protective tissue, that is epidermis, undergoes certain changes. A strip of secondary meristem replaces epidermis of stem. Ultimately, several layered thick cork of tree is formed. The cork cells do not contain protoplasm but are filled with resins or tannins. Structure of cork. Cells of cork are dead and compactly arranged without intercellular spaces. Suberin, an inorganic fatty substances which forms the heavy thickened walls of cork cells. Suberin makes a plant impervious to gases and water. How does cork act as a protective tissue? Cork acts as a protective tissue because its cells are dead and compactly arranged without intercellular spaces. They have deposition of suberin on the walls that make them impervious to gases and water. Now, let us summarize what we have learned. Plant tissues. There are two types of plant tissues: meristematic tissues and permanent tissues. Meristematic tissues are of three types: apical meristem, intercalary meristem, and lateral meristem. Permanent tissues are divided into simple permanent tissues and complex permanent tissues. There are three types of simple permanent tissues. They are parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. And complex permanent tissues are of two types. They are xylem and phloem.